Ha! 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 Welcome to Ass, everybody. My name's Adam,
And I'm Steve.
and we are Ass, Adam Steve Show. That's what we do. We talk about movies here, and sorry it's been a hot minute, but we have plenty of stuff to go around, so we will not waste any amount of time. First things first, we have the movie of the hour, Challenger. Steve, you just got out of it. What do you think?
I went into it not really expecting a whole lot. I know the trailers got a lot of attention, but a 2+ hour tennis movie just didn't sound that appealing to me going into it. Not the biggest tennis fan, don't even really know a whole lot about the sports other than like Venus and Serena for the most part, and watching that movie a few years ago too with King Richard. But yeah, so that didn't really entice me too much, but big Zendaya fan. Mike Feist, however you say it, is pretty good too. I don't know the other guy's name, but
Josh
Luke
O'Connor.
Okay, Josh O'Connor, but Luca
Mhm.
Guadagnino directing this one once again, and so far, in my opinion, the man has not missed. I love this movie as much as the rest of them. Maybe not as much, but it's just as good in my opinion in a lot of different ways. But it was a lot better than I was expecting. The acting, I mean, Zendaya is kind of just doing what she normally does, but what she did here with kind of all the different mind games going on and everyone kind of trying to like one up one another, like there was a lot going on here more than just tennis, but also the tennis scenes, the cinematography and editing in there was super fucking cool. I mean, I even got some jump scares when they were like serving at the camera. I'm not even gonna lie, but I really enjoyed it. How about yourself?
Yeah, I was a big fan of it as well. I saw it like a month ago, so all
Gotcha.
the wave of people falling in love with it is kind of like, yeah, this was like I saw it a long time back. So, but I remember I really enjoyed it. I wasn't like fully in love with it, but I did really like it. I just really appreciate a movie. First of all, like sports movies feel like their own genre. Like I hear people being like, "Oh, this is like a sports drama romance." And I love that. Number one, you brought up King Richard, which my big problem with that movie was I really enjoyed all the dramatic scenes, and I feel like that movie gets a bad rap these days because Will Smith did what he did, and it's become one where since it won the Oscar, like that did awful things for its legacy because now it's just gonna be remembered for the movie that shouldn't have won. But the tennis scenes in that movie are the worst scenes. Like
Yeah.
I remember the third act of the movie, I'm just like, okay, she's either gonna win or lose, and that's gonna matter, I guess. But here, the tennis scenes, I don't even want to say they're the best part, but they're like really like action heavy. Like it feels like I'm watching an action movie. They're thrilling. They're doing crazy, fun, innovative stuff with the camera.
Yeah.
At every second, the score is absolutely pumping, and there's important moments that happen. Specifically, the ending of the movie is so impactful in the middle of this tennis match. And, obviously there's bigger things than who's going to win the tennis game. But yeah, so the sports scenes feel very powerful and meaningful, but also like this trinity of characters. Because I came for Mike Faist. I'm a big Mike Faist fan. I loved him in West Side Story, but I left a Josh O'Connor fan. I think he looks like a young Glenn Howerton. Do you watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can definitely see that.
Yeah, he just reminds me of it so much. But he was fantastic in the movie, and I thought his character was a little bit more proactive and a little bit more compelling. And the big thing I was worried about with this film was Zendaya. I'm not the biggest Zendaya fan. I thought, the scene where she kind of like lays back and is like, doing the evil smile in the trailer, way too cheesy. Kind of like it felt like remember that movie Truth or Dare, like Blumhouse's Truth or Dare.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that a little bit, and I was like, if you're trying to scare me, it's not working. But I love how she's kind of this villainous character, but not like I get who everyone is in this Trinity, what they want, what they're good at, what they bring to the table, what power they have, and I just really love how close I feel to these characters. Did you see it in IMAX?
I didn't. I had a ticket to go see it last Monday at an early screening for IMAX, but I couldn't get to it unfortunately. But yeah, a little bit to what you were saying right there about all the different characters. It's almost like you want Zendaya to almost be the villain, but at the same time, they're all villains to each other in a way. Like it's that deep of a story, and all of the webs are just so crazy and all over the place that it adds even more to the drama. So when you're watching all those tennis scenes and you're like, who's going to win this? You're also cutting to Zendaya on the side because she's also just as involved as they are in this match for a lot of different reasons. So there's just so much here that you can attach yourself to, along with the Trent Reznor score that everyone's kind of been hyping up too, which it totally lived up to the hype. It was incredible and just added more to that tension and everything. So there's just a lot going on for this movie, and the more I keep thinking about it, honestly, the more I keep liking it more and more.
So I noticed you gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd. Is this your second 5-star movie of the year, or is it your third, maybe?
Yeah, I'd have to look. Give me 1 second, but I want to say it's definitely around that area because
Well,
honestly, a lot of my 2024 movies so far haven't been that high. Like, yeah, I think Dune's the only one I've given 5 stars. Did I give Monkey Man 5? I don't think I did. No, I
I
gave
don't
it
think you
4.
did. But that's kind of where I'm going with it because I've only given out one 5-star this year, which was to Dune Part 2. I gave this 4 stars. I really wouldn't be surprised if I go back and catch it again in IMAX. I didn't really care for a lot of the cutting around in the timeline. I think if I watch it again, because I've noticed that's some people's favorite part about it. So I think I'd enjoy it more knowing where the story's going. Because there were some parts where I was like, oh, well, this is kind of, lacking in like intrigue for me because I kind of know where certain things go because we're cutting from the future to like 10 years in the past. But I do think that they did a good job of like letting it was clear like when we were in the future and when we were in the past. I don't know. How'd you feel about the time jump thing?
Yeah, it bothered me a little bit during the movie, but the more the story unfolded, the more I kind of understood what they were going for with it. Like, especially cutting back and forth between like the big match at the end and then going back and showing you more context of what's going on. And yeah, there are certain moments that I can definitely see some audiences, especially at home, I think would even be a little bit harder too, just because you have the distraction of a phone and stuff, where you could look up and be like, all right, what time am I even at anymore? Like it's just confusing. But at the same time, I do feel like I don't know if it was makeup or what they did, but when they were younger, they looked younger compared to like the older scenes and stuff like that. So I would definitely give props to that as well. But
Mhm.
yeah, I can definitely see where that time jumping around could definitely get a little crazy. And at times it did get a little jarring, but the story made sense as it was going on. But yeah, that was definitely, if anything to complain about, that's probably the biggest complaint for me.
Yeah, it's currently my second favorite movie of the year, so it's the best 4-star movie to me. It's right behind Dune, obviously, which is again, once again, just going to be the best movie of the year. It's so I can't wait till the day that I come on this show and I'm like, I found something I like more. Maybe it's not better than Dune Part Two, but I like it more. It means more to me. But yeah, Zendaya is just on top of the world right now. Couldn't be happier for her. I don't like her interviews. I think her interviews are very annoying. And I talked about that for the majority of my YouTube review. And my friends made fun of me for it because they're like, you're not even talking about the movie. But basically, in her interviews, she's like way too like faithful to Tom Holland,
I've seen
like
that,
to
yeah.
an annoying point where she'll be like they asked her in the Dune thing, like who in the cast has the most Riz, and she's like Tom Holland, and it's like just
Yeah,
say Rebecca Ferguson, no one's going to be mad at you. Like
I
Tom is
feel
an
like
adult,
I
right?
feel like she's definitely doing that a little bit to be loyal to Tom because like right now, Spider-Man's not the spotlight right now. He's not being talked about whatsoever. Like honestly,
Well,
since the MCU ended, I have forgotten about him completely until everybody started talking about him being a cuck for the trailer of this movie. So I mean, I get what she's going for there, but yeah, that stuff's kind of goofy at the same time. And I haven't really paid attention too much to some of those interviews, but I did see those headlines quite a bit of her talking about Tom and everything. And it's like, yeah, Dune 2 is still my favorite movie of the year right now. This one is right there too, but there's another movie that we're going to talk about in a little bit that's fighting for that number two spot right now too. So
Godzilla. No,
close, but no.
no, it's funny that you say that about because I get what you're saying. Tom Holland Spider Man really isn't in the limelight at the moment, but it's funny for me because well, obviously I'm on the ground at the theaters all the time, and we are in week 3 of the Spider Man re-releases. So tonight, for example, I'm gonna go see Spider Man 3. Hopefully, maybe, probably if they add another showtime. But yeah, no, Spider Man has been all the rage right now. But yeah, you're right, not the Tom Holland Spider Man. But yeah, I get it. Like you're in a movie where you're kissing a bunch of attractive guys, and so you should make it clear to your partner, hey, you're what I'm all about. And I hear they're planning marriage and whatnot. But I just like a lot more how Tom Holland carries himself in interviews when it comes to questions like this. And I mean, I guess he really doesn't have the opposite where he's in a movie kissing like some really hot actress or whatever.
Yep.
But
The only
it's
hot
just
actress he
kind of
kisses is in fact his girlfriend.
yeah, exactly. So I guess we'll see, and especially we'll see if like how Zendaya's character plays out in the next coming Spider-Man movies. But all of this is neither here nor there. It's awesome to see. Like we talk about movies that are sold on like celebrities, because this isn't. As far as I don't know, like it's not based on anything. Like I saw
I don't
like
think so.
tweets where they're like stuff like this has happened in real life.
Yeah.
But it's an original movie, and the poster is Zendaya's face. This movie is sold on Zendaya, and as someone who's on the ground at the theater, like doing audits, like finding out the exact demographics of the people who would go out of their way to see this movie on opening weekend, it does skew very 18 to 24 demographic, and then also. It was funny because I'm doing the audit Friday, for this movie, and I go into the auditorium and there are like about a dozen people, but half of those dozen were couples where it was like just like in the movie, like there was a black woman and a white man, and I was like, you guys found the movie. And then there's a lot of the LGBTQ community showing up for this one, which makes sense. You have two guys kissing at a certain point. And it's just a very sexy movie in general. It's nice to see a movie that's built around the sex appeal, because even more than tennis, even more than any of that, like this movie is sold as a sex appeal movie, whereas something like in comparison, like Anyone But You or like Deep Water. Do you know what I'm talking about? The one with Anna Darmus and Ben Affleck, and went straight to Hulu.
I know what you're talking. Oh yes, I saw that. Yeah, that movie was
Real
so
trashy,
so bizarre but hilarious. Yeah.
but like this is like challenges like most upscale version of
Oh
that, and
yeah.
it has so much more to offer than just sex appeal.
Yeah.
So it definitely stands head and shoulders amongst other like sexy movies in the genre. Yeah, this is sexy to me.
Yeah.
This is my sexy
One
movie.
line I didn't add to my review and I was about to. I was like, if there's one woman out there that would make me kiss one of my bros, it's Zendaya. But yeah, just going along with all of that, it's a really good movie. Yes, it's all about the sex appeal at the same time, but also, yeah, there's so much more to this. It is a very hot movie. It gets really hot and heavy at times, but the writing here, and if you're a fan of Luca Guadagnino and you're not sure, because like a lot of his stuff before this has really been central horror wise. Like last year, was it last year with
Bones
Bones?
and All was
Yeah.
2022.
Oh yeah, 2022. So yeah, Bones and All, it was kind of like his first like I mean, we had, I forget, Call Me by Your Name was a bit more of a love story and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not even in the same vein because like he started to get a little bit more horror and then he did horror love story and now he's like love story drama wise. Like this one's almost his more like most mainstream, I would say, of like a movie that would be accepted by everyone in the general public, I would say. But if you're a fan of his other work too, I do think you'll still like this because there's a lot of his touches in here. I mean, early on, I don't know if you realized it when like one of the first tennis matches was going on and they're on the table, there was like a bunch of peaches, and I just started laughing out loud immediately. I was like, they definitely did that on purpose. There's no way they didn't, but just so
Mm.
much fun stuff in here that I think you would still be a fan of seeing other of Luca's work, whether it's like his remake of Suspiria, where he did a lot of crazy stuff with the camera, like they do in here, and there's just a lot of touches in here that I think are a lot of artistic things that even if you might not like I was saying at the beginning, tennis fan, or even like you might not be the biggest Zendaya fan or everything. I still think there's a lot here that even if you're not a fan of anyone in this movie and know nothing about it, you will go out of this at least enjoying yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, I have seen Call Me by Your Name. I actually just rewatched it. Then I have also seen Bones and All, which that's my favorite of his. I just like again, like we're operating on multiple levels. It's not just a romance movie, but it's also this like horror movie. Like it's very like creepy and like thriller-esque.
Yeah.
Um, so Bones and All my favorite. Also, going back and rewatching Call Me by Your Name and just like remembering that like because like obviously it's like a creepy movie, like for American sensibilities, because we're like 18 is the legal age in America, but in Italy the legal age is 14 and he's 17, so it's like it's okay, but like I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like still so that's why I
Yeah.
still hold that one down at a 4. But I think Challengers has a much better chance of rising up to a 5 over time, because it is less disgusting. Um, also, I think the guys are bi. I don't know if that was like a very apparent, but
You
like
know,
first of all, if I was kissing my buddy, I would notice. You know what I mean?
exactly. And I feel like some of the subtlety they were giving, especially in that scene a little bit beforehand, was like the other guy, even though they were talking about their whole memory thing of him teaching him a certain act. But
Yeah,
before that, he was kind of almost looking at him a little bit, where I almost thought that not Mike Face, but the other guy, John O'Connor or whatever you said his
Josh
name was,
O'Connor. Yeah.
Josh O'Connor. It almost felt like his character a little bit more than Mike, a little bit maybe, that almost felt a little bit more like he's like, well, maybe.
Well, I saw something that said the beds were pushed together.
Yeah, that too. I forgot about that. Yeah, when she before she came in the room or whatever. Yeah, the beds were together.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's just like again, there's like very like good attention to detail, and there's things that I feel like that could be picked up on multiple viewings. Like it's the kind of movie that feels like it would keep on giving, you know?
Yeah, I won't spoil anything, but the serve moment, I was like dying laughing because like I don't feel like
Hmm.
almost anyone else. Granted, there were only about six other people in my theater today at noon, and they were all women except for me. No
Hmm.
one else felt like they got that as much, but I was like, no, no fucking way, like almost out loud.
For me, the funniest part was they're doing the score, they're pumping the score at the end, and
Hmm.
then like they stop the score for a second, and then it like feels like it restarts. And I laughed then because it was like, yeah, this is kind of taking a minute, like it is like the song's looping
Yeah.
almost. And like I feel like it was kind of making fun of how melodramatic. They're sports. It doesn't matter. Like I love sport. We love sports, obviously. So it was just funny that they're like calling out like how like long this thing takes, you know?
Yeah, that's another thing with just Trent Reznor being just a brilliant, not only just musician in a way, but the way he transitioned from being the Nine Inch Nails guy into movies, like with Social Network and all the different things that he's won for already. This is another one I can see being an Oscar contention at the end of the year, just because it's just so it is along with the cinematography like we were talking about, it just gets you amped up and like in those moments, it's the one thing that you're really paying attention to the most. Because especially they
Mm,
amp up the volume a lot too, and especially when you're in a theater. I wish I could have saw an IMAX too, especially with all of that sound, or even like a Dolby theater like you have in Florida. That'd be
mm,
the kind of thing that would just really, really be great for this movie.
mm. So you brought up Academy Awards. Obviously, we're really early in the year,
Yeah.
but do you think how many nominations, if any, do you think that this movie gets? Not what it deserves, just what you think it will actually get.
I think at least right now, I know there's a lot still coming, but right now, especially with all that tennis stuff, cinematography I feel like could sneak in there for sure. And like I said, with the soundtrack and with the best score or whatever, I could really see Trent Reznor sneaking in there like he does a lot. But I don't think any of the acting, while it was good, probably not going to be talked about at the end of the year, at least that I can think of. Best Picture, although I gave it a 5 star, I don't know if it's really Best Picture caliber unless it really holds on to the steam it has at the moment. But yeah, I think score and cinematography would probably be the ones I give it to the most. And like I said, with the de-aging or whatever they did, it didn't look like any digital de-aging in my opinion, but the way they went back and forth with, I mean, the editing too actually could be a thing in there. I feel like that was really well in this movie too, but especially like the makeup maybe when it comes to them looking younger and everything maybe, but the locks in my opinion would be the cinematography and sound if anything, or score.
I'm a little disappointed because I thought you were going to take the bait because I knew you liked it more than me. So I thought you were going to be like, yeah, picture, and give me best
You
actress.
know, if it snuck in there at the end of the year, no complaints for me. I just don't see, I don't want to jump
Mhm.
too far on the gun, but those are the ones I would, are the safest bets anyway.
Yeah, I think I am right on there with you. Those two, maybe makeup and hairstyling gets in there, but maybe makeup and hairstyling is more likely than cinematography,
You know,
because I
and
know they don't net. Sorry.
sound editing and stuff too, like in those moments when like they're bouncing the ball and everything, like everything feels very impactful at certain moments too. So it could sneak in for sound editing too, or whatever the Oscar is now, just best sound, I think.
Yeah. It's just funny because right now I've seen, I think I'm at 37 movies on the year, like 2024 movies. And so, like, right now, if I was doing my awards right now for the year, it would be nominated for everything.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, really good movie. I would love to rewatch it again in IMAX. Currently, I'm at a 4. I'll wait and see how much that this grows on me. I know the Rotten Tomatoes score is kind of in that 80, like 70 to 80 range. So I feel kind of comfy with my 4-star rating. Not saying that I let everyone tell me how I'm going to rate my movies, but like it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, so everyone else kind of feels like that too. Cool,
Yeah.
like I'm fine.
Leaving the theater, because like you were talking about with the editing back and forth and everything with the timelines and stuff, I was thinking of four, but just like I was talking about, the more I keep thinking about it and just the more minute details in a way, it's just making me love it more and more. So that's why I kind of put it at a five right away. But like I said, it's not my favorite of the year right now. I mean, Zendaya is still dominating that area, being Dune 2 up there, but if we're done
Mm,
talking about this one, my other number two one that I really want to talk about, maybe even just real quick, is one that's
mm,
actually available still in some theaters, but also available on the streaming service Shudder, and that is Late Night with the Devil.
mm,
I went into this movie not knowing a whole lot about it. The only thing I really knew is that David Desmalchian was in it, and that sold me right away because I love this dude and everything he's been in. I mean, he's a character actor for the most part in a lot of different horror movies, especially. But I mean, he was even in the Dark Knight and the Ant-Man movies and all that kind of stuff, and Polka Dot Man and Suicide Squad a few years ago. But this movie was finally him being in the starring role, and I think he absolutely killed it. It was fantastic. I love how they did that like almost mini documentary in the beginning, kind of like giving you all of the exposition without basically putting it in dialogue like a lot of movies just throw at you really hardcore and it doesn't feel that good. But the way they kind of framed this movie, I really loved it. And especially the way they shot it, like they definitely went back and watched stuff from the 70s and looked at old sets like that because everything from the costumes, the way they filmed it with the camera setup and everything, like we studied at Full Sail and we did the whole news setup, like the cameras were almost like that in a way. And every minute detail that we could see in here, whether it was like the old Halloween masks or even just the different outfits that they're wearing and just the way they acted in a lot of ways, like they captured that 70s feel. And I just had so much fun watching this one. So what did you think?
I was excited about it because the first thing that I heard about it was, well, I think I heard like it was a movie that was out that people like. And then the second thing I heard about it was the AI use in the movie. Now, my opinion on it, I know AI is like a very hot button issue, but so just quick like sidetrack when the Secret Wars, not Secret Wars, what was that Secret Invasion Marvel show that they did with Nick Fury was in it,
I think
the
it was Secret
Scrolls?
Wars. I didn't
Sure.
watch it.
Yeah, not to be demeaning to it, but like, sure. I remember that they did the opening title sequence, which could totally be false, by the way, which I am very like, aware that we are getting so good at faking stuff. Like, I don't know, the NBA playoffs right now, I don't know if you've seen, but like they'll do videos of LeBron during an interview and like everything's LeBron except his mouth and it looks very real. And he's just sitting there being like, "Yeah, D'Lo sucks. He couldn't make a single shot today." And I remember watching it. And I was like, "Oh!" And I was like, "Wait a minute, that's fake. Yeah, he would never say that." So,
Yeah.
but I'm someone who grew up with computers, grew up with this technology on social media. So like, I might be a little bit more aware as someone than someone like got like my grandparents. They just see it and be like, "Oh, I don't like that LeBron said that." Like we are so um impressionable. I don't know if that's the word, but sensitive to misinformation. And so
Yeah.
that's crazy. But yeah, a sidetrack to the sidetrack. But Secret Invasion using AI to do their opening titles, that sucks because that's a big, like millions and millions of dollar, like
Yeah.
franchise studio making a movie. Whereas the Devil at Night or Late Night with the Devil, that's like the. Did you see how many opening logos were at the beginning of that movie?
Oh yeah, tons. That's one thing I was thinking at the beginning
Mm.
of watching. I was like, is this like part of the bit or something? I was like, why are there so many fucking production companies? But Yeah, like you're hinting towards. This movie, compared to Marvel, had no money to get a lot of the stuff done. They
Hmm.
went on a very small budget, like a lot of horror movies do, and especially independent horror movies. You have no money to get a lot of this stuff done. So while yes, AI art, for the most part, if you're using it to cut corners and being like a piece of shit and wanting to take from other people or whatnot, yeah, that's garbage. But in this movie's case, I do not really have a problem with it because what they used it for was it was the in between of like the show, right? When they cut to like the black and white footage of being like behind the scenes and whatnot. Like it was like those
And I
title
think it was in the
cards.
background too, like during the show, like the owl animation, like that
Okay.
picture was like on a wall in the background, maybe.
Yeah, just like stuff that it literally, yes. Could they have paid someone to draw up all that stuff and do it? Possibly, but did they have it in their budget? More than likely not. Because they were probably working on such a small budget and trying to make the best movie they possibly could. That's when tools like AI stuff work. Did they probably use the exact thing that AI spit out? I could almost guarantee you not, because most AI can program still, when you put in a title for stuff, it's always misspelled. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. So I guarantee they probably paid someone to go in and touch up some of the AI art for sure. But at the same time, it's not the same as, oh, let's just put in a prompt and it's going to spit out a whole script or stuff like that. That is the problem with AI when it comes to entertainment right now. That kind of stuff, while yes, could they have paid someone and they could have probably got a day rate and that would have been good for that person, absolutely. But is it
Hmm.
really going to tear down the art of filmmaking itself by utilizing a tool that minute? I honestly don't think so.
It kind of reminds me of the Social Network, where they're like, we don't know what it is yet. You know, that when it comes to AI, like, I don't know, like it sucks when Civil War does those posters with AI. Again, it's a big studio movie. Like, come on. I mean, A24, big studio, but like that's their biggest movie, you know? And those posters are ugly, like
Yeah.
super ugly too. And then like someone made a fan poster. It's like a barbed wire fence with a blue sign. And it's made to look like the American flag, and there's bullet holes in the sign which look like the stars, and like it's just such a brilliant poster that like makes me want to see the movie. But yeah, I don't know, it's one of those things where I know they were talking about it at the strike, the writers and the actors strike, but it's such a complicated situation, and I don't think we should be outwardly like hating it just because it's new. We just
Hmm.
haven't gotten the reins on it yet. We haven't figured out how to utilize it in a good way. Like scary. It's scary just because we don't know so much about it yet. And like I don't know. I was on Instagram today, and I went to go to the search bar, and it was like Meta AI doing your. Then I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
touch that.
I,
But that's old people stuff. Okay. Old people reject new things outright. So we have to be patient and learn as we go with it. And we'll make it work. It'll be
well,
fine.
yeah, and I personally am of the belief that a lot of the outrage that came out around Late Night with the Devil using AI was, like you were saying, just a lack of not knowing anything about it. All they saw was AI and the movie's title, and they're like, we have to bash this movie for doing the thing that we all hate. But the fact that probably most of them, until right now, if they're even watching this, probably didn't even know that they used AI for those titles and for that one thing in the background, possibly. And it didn't take away, if you didn't have those in the movie, I don't think it would change the movie very much whatsoever. The movie was
Mm-hmm.
made by people, by a lot of hardworking individuals that, in my opinion, put out a pretty damn good movie. So to try to bash it for that one simple thing that, honestly, like I said, could be easily remedied, and honestly probably was still worked on by a person. It wasn't just a straight AI image. So yeah, I think all of the outrage around it was kind of just sad in general because they missed out on a really great movie. They let that kind of deter them from seeing it in a theater anyway.
It's funny because, and I'm sorry, I am part of the problem. I'm actively right now part of the problem, because the saddest thing about it all is not like, oh, there's some animator out there who didn't get paid to make one picture, that was gonna be on for 3 seconds in this low budget independent film. And instead of talking about how like it is a really good movie, it is. You asked me how I felt about it, and I just kind of went straight into the AI thing where I'm not even talking about how I feel about the movie itself. And so that's really sad because, yes, I love the lead performance. I love some of the side characters in this. I love the presentation of it. I love all the art direction that went into it. And I think it's a really fun idea. But just to wrap up how I feel about the AI thing, because you brought up that, they didn't know. So I've taken a hard stance this year. This is the first year where I'm really like, sticking with my guns here. Because I love Letterboxd, and what I love more than the most on Letterboxd is my Letterboxd stats.
Yeah.
Right, I think they're so fun, and I literally check my 2024 stats like every other day because I'm watching like 3 movies a day, so they change. So like I'm in there like checking all my little stats and stuff. And so if a movie says that it's comes out in 2023, I don't care if it came out in like 2 screens, like a cast premiere preview, whatever of the movie. If it says 2023, I'm leaving it in 2023. I'll still watch it. I still watch Late Night with the Devil. I like it, but I am not going to put it in my. It would be in my top 10 of 2024, but I'm not going to put it in. And if someone says it is in their top 10, I'm not going to be like, "You're stupid." Actually, it came out last year. But the point I'm trying to make here is this movie is a 2023 movie. It's just now in 2024 coming out, meaning they made the decision to do this AI thing way before the actors and the writers strike even happened when it came to all these AI problems. So they're even more like defensible errors because this was forever ago that they did this, you
Yeah.
know?
That's true. I mean, it's possible that that might not be the case because while I do agree with parts of what you're saying, that release date most of the time is usually like film festivals when they
Yep.
get released. But at the same time, a lot of those movies, like this AIR, I thought might be the case. Some people saw this movie before that stuff was actually included into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that might have actually been a later addition with those AI art pieces.
Exactly. Oh, wait, no, that the opposite of exactly. That hurts
Yeah,
my point.
yeah, unfortunately. But so that is one reason why I also will not probably do what you're saying, just because movies get released and then they get reworked so often that I mostly go off of when the general public gets to see it is when I count the release year. Because
No,
yeah,
and I'm
that
not trying to convince you to do what I do. It
I
sucks what I
got you.
do. It's
Yeah, I'm just saying I
terrible.
get what you're saying, but I just think that it's just because so many things get reworked so often that I just usually try to go by when they're mass released to the general public because there are just so many movies that, especially ones that like will get seen at like a screening or like a film festival and then not get released 5 years later. Like it's hard to say
Mhm.
what was even changed at that point or if they just went in and redid everything or what at that point. So
Well, my call to action is not just I'm not just here to bitch about it. I think Letterbox should have the release date be whenever it was released wide.
yeah, I
Now
agree.
that's kind of difficult because like what 1917 and I think La La Land are both movies that I specifically remember got released like in 2 theaters, New York and LA in like December, and then went wide in January.
Yeah.
Now that's I guess that sucks too. But yeah, like ISS. What else from this year? There was that movie with Keith Stanfield, the book of
Oh, yeah.
but it was like a biblical thing with Lakeith Stanfield,
Yeah.
Book of Clarence.
Yep.
And there's several other things this year as well. Like we both watched that movie Role Play because it said 2024, and we're like, let's get started on our 2024 list. And then it keeps going back to 2023, then 2024, and like A Quiet Place Part Two is listed as 2020 on Letterboxd. Like that very clearly came out at the end of May of 2021.
Yeah.
And so it sucks, but like because I like my stats so much. Now, the moment that there's a movie that comes out that I love and that's like, oh yeah, this is it says 2023, but this is my favorite movie of the year, sure, I'll cave. But until then, like, yeah, sure, this would make my top 10 list. I really like it. I think it's really fun, spooky. I was scared. I was actually really terrified during this movie because after you watch so many horror films, you kind of become desensitized a bit. But here I remember walking out of the theater like,
The way they
ooh,
the way they mix the practical effects here with some of that digital, like the one scene that we can probably both agree on with the lightning and whatnot was kind of goofy a little bit, but the rest of it with a lot of the different practical stuff that was going on, especially when it was like the guy being tricked into like imagining what was going on with his own body and shit like that looked really fucking good in my opinion. But
Hmm.
there's just stuff in here that you could tell the people making this were huge fans of like 70s television, just like 70s horror movies as well, because it has so many staples of that era in it, whether it's the practical stuff or the way they just set up everything. Like it's a love letter more than is just as much as it is a horror movie in a lot of ways. But just a really great movie in my opinion. I put it 4 out of 5. Could it move up to a 5 out of 5 on a rewatch? Possibly, just because I love it that much. And like I said, if you haven't seen it yet and it might not be playing in a theater by you anymore, luckily it's on Shudder, and Shudder is just a dope service. I'm not sponsored in any way by them. I just really love it a lot. And if you love horror, go watch that movie as soon as you can, in my opinion, because it's just a great time. Might even show my dad here pretty soon.
Yeah, I agree. I'm at a 4 out of 5. I particularly enjoyed the skeptic character. I just finished watching the Red Letter Media did their half in the bag on it,
I haven't watched that
and they
yet, but I
didn't like
want
him. They
to.
said it. Yeah, they're like, oh, he's overacting a bit, and I'm like, but he made everything a little bit more interesting. Like he was always there to like kind of try to shut things down,
The
you know.
overacting, especially of him and the guy doing the whole like medium thing. And I think that was almost more of the charm to it too, because that was kind of
Mm-hmm.
what 70s television was a lot too, of people just being trying to be over the top because like television in a way was pretty new at the time still too, of just like actual broadcasts like that around the world.
Hmm. Yeah, I enjoyed the movie. I think it's really good. It's one I liked it so much that it made me feel bad. I didn't want with like this whole like crusade of like whatever Letterbox says goes. Like I didn't watch Skinamarink last year because I was like, well, it says it's listed as 2022, so when I'm focused on the future. I'm focused on now. And so that was, it makes me feel silly for that because I really like this movie. I really do, and it would definitely be in my favorite horror movie of the year so far. And we've had some. We're probably going to bring up Immaculate. I might bring up The First Omen. I know people like that a lot. I didn't.
Yeah, I
And
haven't
then
yet, but I want to.
oh,
Same
and then of
thing.
course Imaginary came out this year. We can't forget that.
We would really love to forget about that. But the one thing I do want to hear from you real quick, have you seen Civil War yet? Because I have not.
Yes, sir. I did watch Civil War. What do you want to know?
So I'm a big Alex Garland guy. Like
Mhm.
we were both fans of Men.
I
This
love
is a
men.
funny, it's
I
a funny
love
sentence to
men.
say. But yeah, we both love Men. I mean, I'm a big fan of Ex Machina too. I don't know about yourself, but a lot of the stuff. I mean, even what is that? What is the one that everyone kind of is like indifferent about?
Annihilation.
Annihilation with the crazy ass bear and everything.
Oh, people love
Everything.
Annihilation, man.
Okay, I thought people were more down on it than that because they thought the stuff was bad. But yeah, so everything he's done so far, in my opinion, Men was pretty controversial. I know we're like some of the only fans of it. It feels like sometimes, but
Hmm.
so compared to the rest of his movies, where would you rank it at? I guess I would say because I don't really want to know too much about it because I still really don't, other than Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Plemons are in it. That's about it.
Before I go off about it, because obviously I won't spoil it. Did you read my review about it?
I don't remember if I did, so probably
That's
not.
okay because it's funny. Whenever I ask people that, I'm hoping they say no because I'm like, well, I'm pretty much just going to say what I put in my review. Also, because if I haven't seen a movie, I don't read the review.
Yeah, I
Like,
try not to, unless it's either you or Chad, my other friend. Those are the only people I
mhm.
really read their reviews if I haven't seen it right away sometimes, but everyone else, no.
So I felt like it's my I, you know what, you're so lucky actually. You are so lucky because you're gonna get to experience what I thought I was gonna get to experience. So this is my number 10 most anticipated movie of the year, Civil War. And I'm a big fan of Alex Garland. I love Ex Machina. I think Annihilation's really good. I love Men. I think Men is my favorite. Men is the movie. I mean, I've only seen it once, and I've seen Ex Machina like 3 times, Annihilation once, and obviously Civil War once.
Yeah,
But Men, I feel like accomplish it. Fine, I'll go Ex Machina at the one, whatever.
me too.
And then, even though I didn't watch it when it was re-released in IMAX a Wednesday or two ago, but I just think that Men is that last 30 minutes, especially, and that supporting actor in that movie, he was so awesome. He was every kind of role, and it was just like
Yeah.
this horrifying, like kind of this uncanny valley kind of thing. But And yes, I understand that the message, men bad, like I get it. But if you didn't like that message in Men, then you're not going to like the message in Civil War, because it's also very simple. Um, yeah, so sorry, it was Ex Machina, Men, closely followed by Annihilation. I bet I'm like underrating that movie. But then yeah, Men is at the bottom, and it's not even close. So I saw it the weekend
You
after it came out.
hold on. You said men's at the bottom. You didn't
Oh,
mean to
sorry,
say
Civil
that.
War is at the
Yeah.
bottom. I'm so silly. But I watched it a little bit after everyone because I wasn't able to make it to the press screening because I had to go to work that day, and it was a fan event anyways, so whatever. But I remember everyone like there's a bunch of fours, and then some people were like really low on it, and I remember thinking, oh well, I'm really gonna like it now because my expectations are tempered, and so I went and watched it, perfect conditions, RPX, middle of the day on a Monday. I think I double featured it with the first Spider-Man. So I had a Kirsten Dunst kind of a day.
Oh yeah.
And I just thought that the movie was kind of stupid. Like, I think it's really well made. I like and respect Alex Garland. I love that there is a movie, a big budget, movie, blockbuster type movie that is written and directed by one dude who has a clear vision and is trying to say something. But that's my problem is with what this movie is trying to say. I think it's advertising itself as one thing. I'm trying to be as vague as humanly possible. It's advertising itself as one thing, but it's just an entirely other thing. And then I felt very similar to this movie as I did about Iron Claw. Do you remember Iron Claw?
Oh yeah. I'll, unlike yourself, I'm a huge fan of Iron Claw.
Yeah, so exactly. I really think you're primed to really enjoy this because I'm sitting here shitting on it. I'm like, it's just like that other, 3-star, generous 3-star movie, Iron Claw. But it's one of those where it's like, oh my, like, can you believe the person who jumped off a cliff died? It's like, yeah, I could totally believe that. Or that, it's bad. You run into a brick wall, you're gonna have a bruise or whatever. Like you're gonna break your arm. Like, yeah, obviously. So I kind of had that problem with this movie. And then the things that everyone's complaining about it, I understand that that's not what the movie's about, is what people are complaining about it. But what people are complaining about is so much more interesting than what the movie is actually about. And I feel like what the movie is actually about, it doesn't have anything to say about it. And then the performances are all right. I didn't like very many of the characters. Like I said, it's a very pretty movie. If you think loud gunshots are scary, wow, you're gonna have a day, man.
So
Um,
you're saying the conversations around this movie are more interesting than the movie itself?
oh yeah, like I would love to talk about it. Like I would love to go off on how I feel about the themes and how I feel about the plot and the character. Like there's so much to talk about, and that's what you get when you get a movie by a filmmaker who really actually cares. Who this movie's sold on his name. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Alex Garland, and it's written and directed by one guy. That's so cool. That's so special.
Yeah,
We
we
don't get that
don't
very often.
we really don't get that very often. We get movies by committee like Madam Web this year, and we know how that works. So, yeah, it's very
Mhm.
refreshing to get a movie made by one person like that, which I mean, some people might not love that name, but it's a name that still puts asses in seats. And I mean, he has interesting things to say a lot of times, whether people might not totally agree with what he's trying to say. The fact that he's putting it out there and doing at least interesting stuff with these messages and everything, I think speaks to him as an artist as well as just as a filmmaker, just doing cool shit.
I just don't think it's a very satisfying film. It's a 3-star, but it's the most interesting 3-star. Like I said, I could talk about it forever, even just like tiptoeing around it. I'm all giddy. But definitely watch it. It's so funny to be like, because I remember it came out and I was like, it's the kind of 3-star where I'm not going to actively like campaign for people to see it, but if they're interested, I'll be like, cool. Let me know. Like my mom and grandma went and saw it. But you're different. You're not like a casual moviegoer. You're in the shits. So definitely watch it. And next time we'll have a little bit more to say about it. Which things should be getting a little bit more like must see, TV kind of
Yeah,
like required theater watching with all the blockbusters in the May and the rest of the summer.
there's been so much stuff that I've been trying to catch up on. But
Mhm.
one of those things that you've been hyping up on this podcast that I finally got to see, and I just want to bring that up real quick. We don't have to talk about it too much because you've already talked about it being one of the best movies ever made,
Oh,
and
I
that is
know.
Blackberry with Glenn Howerton. We mentioned him a little bit earlier, and I just want to throw that out there that I gave that movie a 5 star too. It is just as good as you were saying, if not better. The performances in it were fantastic. I mean, Jay Baruchel, it was way like while he's still kind of playing the role that he kind of has been doing in some Seth Rogen stuff before as being kind of like the more sheepish guy and not really like boisterous about his opinion sometimes and kind of just like letting shit happen rather than him kind of pursuing stuff. But he did fantastic in this role as a real person doing just great shit. But more than that, Glenn Howerton, while he's still playing like a little bit of a Dennis role, he just ate the scenery every time he was on screen. I mean, I couldn't get enough of this movie. Even the guy that was the director and also Jay's friend, I forget his name right now. You know it for
Matt
sure.
Johnson, yeah.
Matt Johnson was fantastic in this too. I'm just a big fan of him in general now. Like I haven't seen a ton of his work yet, but I'm looking forward to it and what he'll do in the future because there's a lot of cool stuff going on in this too, whether it's with the camera and stuff. And yeah, I'm really sad I didn't watch it last year because it probably would have been in my top 10.
I would love to. Speaking of his other films, I kind of fell asleep during Operation Avalanche, so I didn't really get the full effect of that movie. And I've never watched Nirvana, the band, the show, and I know he's doing the movie Nirvana band, the band, the show, the movie. Excuse me, but I would emphatically, especially if you like Matt Johnson a lot. I don't know. I feel like Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow with my hands up like this. But I would emphatically recommend The Dirties. The end of that movie is like such a gut punch. It's very short. I think it's 80 something minutes. It's on Amazon Prime. I think that's where I watched it. It's very hard to find. Like my buddy had to buy it, a DVD from like Australia. So even if you
Okay.
have to pirate it, I'm so sorry, Matt Johnson, but even just find a way to watch this movie. It's just a like same type of thing. Like Matt Johnson always does this like kind of like a mockumentary, like found footage type
Yeah,
thing.
like handheld, lots of shots and stuff. Yeah. Very
Yeah, and
intimate.
it's just about it's a movie about him and his friend in high school, and they're making a movie about a school shooting, and I just think
Oh,
those are super interesting. So
yeah. I feel like I've heard of this movie, but I haven't seen it.
very relevant, obviously. And
Yeah.
Matt Johnson, like it's funny you say you like him a lot. Now you're like, oh, I really. He's the same guy in every movie. Like that was just Matt Johnson. Like he's great as Matt Johnson. But that's why I like this movie more than his other works, is because it's like the other movies star Matt Johnson, and here, this starred actors.
Hmm.
Not to be mean to him and his friends, but it starred real actors, and Matt Johnson was just like a supporting guy. I do want to ask, well, what was your favorite scene in the film?
Um, Probably toward the end, especially in the NHL boardroom when he found out that he wasn't going to be part of it and all that kind of shit and just freaked out, had a meltdown. Glenn Howerton deserves an Oscar for that kind of shit because that was just it just had me fucking on my floor laughing almost, but also just like in awe of him just like going off like that while still keeping like composure in a way.
I'm from Waterloo, where
Yeah.
the vampires hang out, and just like people looking at him like, what the fuck?
What the fuck are you
Uh,
saying?
there's so many of those. Like my favorite outburst from him is when Jay calls him, or he's getting a call. He's like, "You have a collect call from? What the fuck is going
Yeah.
on?" Be like, "I'm about to do something weird." But my favorite scene personally, and it's just the best scene in the movie, is when they first like bring the BlackBerry to the meeting, and he's like, oh, I think some nerds took you for a ride, and then Jay comes in and he's like, oh, did you put them all on one network like they were clients? Oh, what
Yeah.
did that give you? Like 10 phones working at the same time? And he had said 11 before. He's like, yeah, and then he shows him the thing, and then he's like shows him the phone. He's like, well, what's it called? And then they just kind of look at each other. And there's a little detail that I picked up from watching it multiple times. There's a BlackBerry stain on his shirt. Obviously, that's not why they call
Oh,
it BlackBerry, but Jay's shirt has a little BlackBerry stain. I think the reason why it was actually called BlackBerry is because the little buttons on it look like little blackberries.
okay.
Um, I don't know,
It
but
sounds good enough to me.
but my favorite part is when Jay and Glenn are looking at each other, and then they play "Someday" from the Strokes. Strokes are my favorite band,
Yeah.
and then they do the montage of Oprah being like, "It's called the BlackBerry," and I just think that's such an appropriate song usage, not only for the time period, but like also everything that "Someday" is about. It's one of my favorite songs from them. So I hold this movie very close to my heart, and the scene where he like takes him outside and he's like, "What's a network limit load?" And
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, I said I had the best engineers from Canada." And then at the end, he's like, Get John Parker or whatever it is, get this guy." And he's like, "Oh, who is that?" And he's like, "Oh, have you ever played Wolfenstein?" And then the way that Glenn Howerton looks at him after he asks him if he
Yeah.
played Wolfenstein, he's just so unhinged the entire movie. And I've seen it 4 times. My buddy, it's his favorite movie of last year. It's one of those. He didn't rank it as his highest movie of last year, but it was like, I know you, like I'm one of your closest friends. That was your favorite movie of the year. Like, there's nothing you've talked about more and put more care into, and than that. And he's seen it 5 times, so I want to eclipse him. But I've gotten my whole family to watch it. They've watched it multiple times. They love it. I'm so happy you watched it. Thank you.
Yes.
And yeah, it didn't make my top 10, but it's kind of my Banshees of Inisherin. Like in 2022, I loved Banshees, but I didn't put it in my top 10. But then I found myself rewatching it multiple times, and I was like, oh, if I could go back in time, this would be in my top 10. Same thing with Blackberry. I know there's a big aside, but yes, thank you for watching it.
Absolutely. And I would have to agree. I would definitely, it was just so damn good. But speaking of something that you mentioned earlier, and I guess let's get it off my chest right now. We talked about my favorite horror movie of the year, least favorite, Imaginary. Fuck that movie. Don't watch that movie. The monster was stupid. It was shrouded in darkness for the most part, but once it comes to the fruition, it's just a digital shit show. I mean, it's the same as like Boogeyman. Did that come out this year or last? It came out last year, didn't it?
Yeah, last year, yeah.
It's just like that in a way. Like there's not a whole lot to it. It's Blumhouse trying to cash in on shit, and it's just it was so bad. Don't watch it. Just listen to me. Don't watch it.
There was one day at work a birthday party that was seeing Imaginary, and there was a bunch of like 9-year-old girls for their birthday party. That's who the movie is for.
Yeah, it's PG-13 for a reason.
Yeah.
It's not for adults. It's for kids, and it's money grab like 100%. Unfortunately, like
Hmm.
Blumhouse is good at making PG-13 horror good, but they're also good at just making stuff that's quite literally a cash grab. And that's what this is. I mean, speaking to what you were talking about earlier with another movie, Truth or Dare, that was one of their cash grabs they've had before. Or like Fantasy Island, wasn't that a movie that came out? Never watched it, but
Yes, it was.
there's just a bunch of movies that they put out every year that is just like they're just pushing it out the door in January, February, whatever the hell. And if people go see it, great, because they didn't spend a whole lot making it. And that's what it is.
I'm pretty sure it's directed by Jeff Wadlow, who did Kick-Ass 2, amongst other movies.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he stinks.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Hmm. But another horror movie, I gave it 1 star. What did you give it?
Like one maybe. It might have given a little bit more than that. Let's see. I gave it two, but I don't think it deserves it. I might go back on that.
The main woman in it, she's very pretty.
She is.
That's the only nice thing I have to say about the movie. But another horror movie that came out that I actually was kind of in love with, like the whole movie, I'm like enjoying it, but the last 5 minutes, I like got up out of my seat. I mean, like I'm on the edge of my seat. I wasn't standing, but I found myself really feeling immaculate. Just everything I heard about it going into it, so like how Sydney Sweeney was attached to it like a decade ago, but it didn't, get off the ground and went through rewrites and stuff. And then now with her newfound like celebrity, she's able to produce the movie, which is super awesome. And her performance I think is really great. It's very familiar territory. It's just Rosemary's Baby, and that's why I chose the Rose. Actually, no, I didn't choose the Rosemary's Baby
I did.
poster. I chose, yeah, yeah. No, it's a great pick, but my favorite is the nail in the coffin, like that you have to go see this movie because there wasn't a press screening for me or anything. Was It's the poster, the black poster of her face, and on the side it's like, this religious person being like, this is the most like blasphemic movie for, what is it, liberals, abortions, blah blah blah, whatever. And I was like, I need to see this movie.
Hmm.
And then, like I said, the last 5 minutes of this movie are electric.
Yes. Yeah, this movie was tons of fun. I did not have the highest of expectations going in. Didn't really know a whole lot about it, but it was getting pretty decent reviews from what I was seeing, and I was honestly shocked. I didn't know if Sydney Sweeney could really like rock a movie, because I still haven't seen Anyone But You that well or yet at all. And
Oh,
Madam
it's on
Web was,
Netflix.
yeah, I
Oh, don't
bought
you
it
have it?
too.
You
Yeah,
bought it,
I bought
yeah.
it, but I haven't watched it. And yeah, I Madam Web, she was unfortunately just written terribly more than anything, but yeah, she was fantastic in this from what I saw. I mean, for what it is, it's a subdued role for the most part. And yeah, it's very much like Rosemary's Baby. Not a big fan of Rosemary's Baby for the most part. I mean, other than the fact that it's made by one of the grossest human beings ever.
Fine.
But
Whatever,
the movie
man.
itself was also just like disturbing a lot, but in ways that I didn't love, especially coming from a disturbing fellow. But this one, I felt like it definitely still has that, like I was talking about with Late Night with the Devil too. It has that 70s feel to it of like an older 70s horror movie where like it's a slow build. Yeah. That poster is just amazing more than anything too. And it works especially for this movie because it's just a girl who's you can tell, oh yeah, and she's from Detroit. Did you catch that part too? I noticed that during the movie. That
In
Sydney Sweeney's
Immaculate?
character. Yeah.
Oh, represent.
Yeah, she got kicked out of the nunnery closed in Detroit or whatever, and she came here or whatever. That's what the whole thing was, I guess. But yeah, just a lot of cool things in here. And it was a slow build horror, like almost like in the same vein of like an Exorcist in a way, which once it gets going, it fucking gets going, like you were talking about at the end there. Just some wild shit to just leave you on. And especially those last few minutes, I was just like, oh shit, we're really just going hard. And I really,
Hmm.
really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I feel like it had a good amount of self-awareness that like it knew it was this kind of movie that's been done before. So I thought, I don't know, I just remember the scene where she like tries to get taken to the hospital, like that was awesome. And then like just the third act of this movie was really crazy. So but it's kind of fallen in my rankings as time has gone on. But
For some reason, the one scene that's been in my head a lot too is the whole tub scene too, of like the drowning and whatnot. That's been
oh
really in my head a
yeah,
lot lately since I watched it.
well, it's just funny because I went into it not knowing a single thing besides Sydney Sweeney, which, by the way, just to be a dude, it's a Sydney Sweeney R-rated horror movie. So while this movie does deliver what 13-year-old Adam would have wanted this movie to deliver, I feel like it's done like tastefully. Like it's gross, like it's one of those like be careful what you wish for. Like
Yeah,
you're gonna get it, but like I don't know if you want it.
you don't want it in this fashion.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I knew nothing about it. And so I go into the movie and I'm watching it and like 18 minutes in, I'm like, oh, immaculate conception. Oh, that's what this movie is. But yeah, I had a really good time with it. Good movie.
Yeah, it
4 out of
definitely.
5.
Yeah, I think I gave it a four too. It was just it came out, or I gave it a 3.5. It needs to be a four. I'll change that, but it came out of nowhere for me, like we were kind of talking about. Didn't know a whole lot about it, but was pleasantly surprised. And
Hmm.
we'll just transition into another movie that, other than the star of the movie and actually the director and the writer of the movie, I knew nothing about it. And that was the movie Monkey Man, produced by Jordan Peele, but directed and written and starring Dev Patel.
Hmm.
Now, as much of a sin as it might be, I know Dev Patel quite a bit from different movies, but still haven't seen the movie that really put him on the map, being Slumdog Millionaire. Still haven't seen that one, but became a huge fan of him, especially when he was the star of The Green Knight. But also really liked him in other things like what was that? I forget what it was called. It's
Oh,
like
The Last Airbender.
yes, but no, he was in that. But the one where it was in like India or whatever, where he's playing like a
Slumdog
waiter who
Millionaire?
no, it came out a few years
Lion?
ago. Nope. It was like
David Copperfield, the magical David Copperfield
no,
movie.
this it's like Hotel Mumbai, I want to say is what it was called. And it's
Oh,
based
that
off
sounds right.
yeah, it's based off of like a real shooting that happened and everything. And he like played like a waiter in there that kind of like helped save people and shit. And he was really good in that movie. Very
Mm-hmm.
underrated in my opinion if you haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's great in that. But this is his first directorial this is debut, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and although, like it even mentions in the movie, they reference John Wick, and it very much is in the same vein as a John Wick, but I feel like it almost had a little bit more to it. While it's still a revenge story through and through, the story around it was really interesting to me, and the way they were able to involve a lot of different Indian cultural things that I honestly didn't know a whole lot about, and kind of like the almost more underbelly of like the crime and stuff that happens over there that you don't really hear about that often. And there's a lot of cool stuff that if you don't know a whole lot about Indian culture, there's a lot to have here while it's still just being a well choreographed, really cool action movie.
So it's funny because we both gave this 4 stars, but I'll play the heel here just to do a little wrestling reference for you. Um, I think it's very good. I will say I got sick and tired of the sob story from Dev Patel being like, yeah, no one would make a movie with me, so I had to go out and make a movie myself. Like, I get it, and I'm not discounting that, but like, I just heard that story so many times that I was like, shut up, just like, just go make your movie, and I'll see it, and that's fine. But like, stop complaining to me that no one would let you make a movie. You know what I mean? I just thought that got, that got annoying after a while. And then, yeah, it is just John Wick. You said that yourself. You said they even said it in the movie. I mean,
Mhm.
down to like there's a dog, little sidekick, and it's just Action Man goes on revenge tour. And it's like, I know that there's more
Well,
stuff going on with the story and the politics and the culture, and I get that, but like narratively, I'm so like, okay, did he beat up the big bad guy yet at the end?
yeah, yeah, I definitely get it. I just had a lot of fun with it. It's one of those movies that if you like that kind of movie, you're gonna like it. And if you're not as big of a fan of like an action thriller, yeah, it's just gonna be a by the numbers thing that you've seen a bunch of times. But I'm still in the market for that kind of movie, so that's why it worked for me so well, I think.
It's very good. It's just like laughable when this gets like a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's like, oh wow, the how low the bar is for action movies. Like you just have to have a vaguely like interesting main character, and then all the action has because the action is cool. Like especially when they fought in the kitchen. I specifically remember that fight scene was awesome. But like, yeah, as long as like it's inoffensive in the action school, like, oh wow, this is great. This is a
I
great,
will
fantastic movie.
I will keep taking them until they give us a fight choreography or a stunt category in the Oscars.
Yeah, and I'm sure this would get nominated. I thought the non-action scenes were pretty boring. I must have like zoned out because I didn't know how much this movie was about the trans community. Did you pick up on that?
No, not really. I didn't really.
Apparently, well, I've been like people have been making fun of me, like my friends, because apparently like it's very like overt, and I just totally like because there's like that community of people that rehabilitate him or something. They're like monks almost.
Hmm.
They're trans. The people who show up at the end and help him out in the battle. I
Well,
think I think they're. I might be. What if I'm totally making this up?
I mean,
But
part of me kind of hopes you are, just because I've never, none of this registered to me whatsoever. So I'm very, very
well, like that's what
confused.
the
But
riots were partially about. I think was trans rights or whatever. And apparently, the original script of the movie was way longer and it had way more about this. I promise, if you like Google "Monkey Man Trans" or
well,
like
say I
go on Reddit or whatever,
might go on
it's
Reddit or
there.
YouTube or something to see if anybody's got like a whole
Mm,
video or something about it. Just because I'm very
mm.
curious. Because yeah, I did not catch up on any of that.
And this is an anti-trans, by the way. I support trans people. They should be legal to do whatever they want to do. If you found yourself and you're happy, being who you are, great. That's awesome, perfect. It's the American dream manifest right there, baby. And I think people being hateful against them is bad. So I'm just saying that's an element of the movie that like not it's not bad. It's just no idea. Like that went totally over my head, and I could so see like more Republican right wing type people coming out and being like, well, it was really cool until the trans, whatever slur they want to say about trans people. But I guess it's a moot point. But other than that, though, I like that the movie had some personality. I like that there's some interesting side characters in the movie. It's just one that's like I respect it a lot more than I like it. And in my heart, it's much more of a 3 than a 4 because it's like cool, and then I'll never think about it again.
Yeah, I can see that. I would definitely rewatch, especially for some of the action moments for sure. And that monkey mask is pretty fucking cool too. But
Mhm.
yeah, overall, it's not gonna be like something that I'm like, this is like a top 10 action movie ever made. Like, no, it's very much just like, oh, that was a lot of fun. And there are moments in there that I really liked. But yeah, it's not something that I'm gonna be like, hey, everyone, you guys have to run out and go watch this in theaters right now. It's just not that. It's really
Which a
cool.
lot of people love it. Like I said, 90% of Rotten Tomatoes. It's a big
Yeah, and
movie.
like I would put it more between 70 and 80, I think would be a more reasonable spot for it. Because it's not like perfect. There are some moments that it definitely drags a little bit when it's not like you were saying, when it's not heavy on the action. Some of the story stuff, it just kind of slogs and you're just gotta push through and his like almost setting up what he's how he's gonna break in like a Home Alone sequence almost, how he's gonna get into the building or whatever to get to the big bad guy at the top. Like there's stuff in there that it's like, okay, let's just get through it. We know this story. Let's just fast forward to get to the cool shit again. But yeah, it's not gonna be a crazy memorable thing. But if you're out there and you want to go watch a fun action movie, Monkey Man gets the job done.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm so like unpassionate about it, but yeah, it's good. It's whatever. And I'm way more excited for whatever Dev Patel does next than I am about celebrating Monkey Man.
Oh yeah, I think he definitely showed that he is a competent director at the very least in this movie, and that he has some cool tricks up his sleeve that he can make a really cool movie after this too. And even if it's outside of this genre, like trying to do more of something more dramatic, or I even said horror. I would love to see this dude make something horror wise. 'Cause I feel like he has some cool things in there, especially with his camera work and stuff that he was hinting towards, and a little bit more of his story and editing style that I think he would lend himself to this new generation of horror.
Well, he kept complaining about not being in a romance. So if the next movie he makes isn't a romance, I'm going to be like, well, you could have made a romance. No, I'm sorry. I was excited when it was like, oh, they was supposed to go on Netflix and whatever, but then Jordan Peele got a hold of it. And was like, oh, I love this movie, and like two cool filmmakers. Like I love Jordan Peele, I love Dev Patel. So these two uniting together and supporting each other is like it is really cute. It's just after a while, it's like, all right,
Well,
the movie came out and it was big. People did like it and it made money.
and
So,
I
stop
fully
complaining.
agree with Jordan Peele in that sentiment. Where like, especially this action movies like this, and I feel like they're just so much more fun to watch on a big screen with a crowd rather than sitting at home on your couch. Because like, yeah, you're gonna be like, oh, that's so cool, but you're not gonna look to the person next to you and be like, have like a genuine fun reaction to a fight. Or that's one of my favorite things about going to see like John Wick movies in theaters is like looking at the person next to you. Like when I saw John Wick 3 when I was still living in Florida, there was a guy that was sitting next to me. I did not know him from a random person named Adam. And we both looked at each other and like when fucking Boban gets killed with the book at the beginning in the library,
Mhm.
we both looked at each other like, what the fuck was that? And we were just so hyped. So movies like that, I feel like are more fun in that communal space. So I am happy that Jordan Peele was involved in putting that to that next level, whether it might not have been like the big blockbuster that they were expecting, even though they did make a lot of money. But like I said, I don't think it's going to be remembered after like this year.
Very quick side note. I don't know if I'm tripping. Do you have some kind of effect where like there's bubbles? There was like in your hair, there was like a bubble that was there for like like a couple bubbles like popped, and then I was
Oh,
like do this with your head real quick, do the other way. I'm wondering if it was something that was behind you and it was like coming through your hair. I'm not joking. It looked like there was like a TikTok filter, like there was the bubbles started coming out. That's why you
oh,
saw my face. I was like,
oh!
What's
I'll have to
happening?"
watch that later because I have no idea. But
It was at I don't remember the timestamp, but I
I'll
swear
find
I
it.
swear it happened. And we were talking about Monkey Man. Is that all you had to say about Monkey Man?
Yeah, and I think at the time right here, let's just rapid fire some other ones real quick because we're kind of running lower on our time. We're already past an hour, but
Oh well, I was
another
gonna
one.
say. Speaking of Monkey Men, I have Godzilla X
Oh
Kong, A
yeah.
New Empire. I will talk about this one a little bit first. I went back and watched. I think just Godzilla versus Kong. I didn't do King of Monsters, and I didn't do Kong Skull Island, which I will do soon because I think I'm a little low on that movie. And I didn't do the 2014 Godzilla, but obviously I'm a fan of these movies. I went and saw the premiere and I had a really fun time. All the monster fights are super fun. I got some cool merch. So when you got there, you could decide between a Kong bracelet or a Godzilla bracelet. There was other ones where Godzilla was pink and Kong was blue. I got the Godzilla blue because I like blue, and I'm Team Godzilla. I don't. Who are you?
I'd probably lean more towards Kong, honestly. I like him a little bit more.
Yeah, and then Godzilla and then Kong, and I got a poster too. I think it's fair if you're more into Kong, American, but like I don't know. I just like think Godzilla's cooler, and like I think all the Godzilla movies are cooler than the Kong movies.
Oh,
Because I went back
absolutely.
and I watched the original King Kong, and I went back and I watched the original Godzilla, and I just think that like that first Godzilla movie is better than every single King Kong movie, by the way. First of all, so is Godzilla minus one. And then I really respect King Kong, I think it was 1933. And then I watched the 1976 one, which I thought that was really respectable. I don't know why people hate it so much. And then obviously the Peter Jackson one's very good. But clearly I have a lot of love and care. I bought it. I bought the 76 one recently and got it.
So I haven't seen any King Kong movies except for the Peter Jackson one. So I'll have
That's
to go back.
fine.
Yeah, I want to go back and
I
watch that original one. I saw you have it on Vudu, so I put it on my watch list. But
love
yeah,
that. I'm like, oh, there's such a rich history with this character, and it's just like, yeah, you're good.
but yeah, Godzilla are the better movies by a long shot. Godzilla minus one. If it wasn't in my top 10 of last year, which I want to say it was definitely just outside of it because it was just an incredible moment for filmmaking in general, but by far the best of any of these. But this movie, Godzilla and Kong, whatever the other part of the title is, I can't remember.
Godzilla X Kong: A New Empire.
Yeah, and like most of these, is the movie great and ripe with story? Not necessarily. Do I give a shit about any of these humans? Not at all. But were the monsters tons of fun and just doing really fun stuff full of CGI craziness? Absolutely. And that was a lot of fun to look at. It's unlike the fucking Godzilla 2014 movie. I hate that movie with a passion. I think that movie is one of the worst Godzilla movies ever made, other than some of the other ones I haven't seen from Japan, but they probably are better than this one. I just don't like anything about that one. Killing Bryan Cranston right away was a mistake, and trying to carry the movie with Aaron Taylor Johnson or whatever was a bad idea.
You don't like when they pick the mouth open. You know what I mean?
No, no,
Oh,
not at
I
all.
love that part.
King of the Monster, I like that one more. And honestly, the last Godzilla versus Kong was okay. It wasn't my favorite, but I think this one is probably one of my favorites of the American Godzilla Kong movies for sure. It didn't take itself too seriously in my opinion. Like it finally realized that we're just here to watch the monsters do fun shit. We don't give a shit about any of these humans.
It's really funny
Godzilla
that
Godzilla minus one, on the other hand, we care about those humans. American Godzilla, fuck these humans.
yeah, it's funny that you sound not even the things you're saying, just the tone in which you talk about this movie, because clearly I'm like so buzzed about it, and but I'm like at a 3 out of 5, and you like sound so down on it. You're like 3.5 out of 5 though,
Yeah,
so I'll agree with you. I think that the human stuff in these movies is god awful, and at the very least in this movie like we're cutting down. Like I watched Godzilla versus Kong. There's like twice as many human characters that we're juggling. And here it's like, okay, just the little girl. You like the little girl, right? Okay, well, her mom is there. And then this time, Dan Stevens shows up, which I like
I
him.
do like Dan
Um,
Stevens and Brian Tyree Henry for the most part. I don't really hate that he's there, but he
I
does get
do.
just a little bit annoying at times.
He's just a goofy, geeky, like a podcast guy, and he's spouting off his little
He's kind of like the
jokes.
necessary like comedic relief that these movies all have, where Dan Stevens kind of plays that at what even better in my opinion, but
Hmm. Oh yeah, everyone's championing Dan Stevens in this movie. No disrespect. He's awesome, especially since I recently watched it. He's great in Abigail. You haven't seen that yet. You would
I
love
want
that.
to really
You
badly,
you
yeah.
would love that. It's so far up your alley. And then I recently saw The Guest for the first time because I suck, and he's awesome in that movie. By the way,
Yeah.
which they all thanks to your Vudu. I would not have been able to see it if not. But that it was one of those annoying things where it's like I know that movie's good, so I was like, let me wait, until like a good time to watch it. Meanwhile, I'm like powering through shit like Jexy and stuff. Um, but Yeah, no, I thought that the human cast was a little bit more minimal. It's still like anytime they're on screen, it's like a bathroom song, just leave.
Yeah.
I will say one thing that you want to talk about comedic relief when Godzilla picks up Mini Kong and just whips him around and hits people with it. That's comedic relief. All the monster stuff is super cool. It's very clear to me that this is a Kong movie way more than it is a Godzilla movie. Like
Yeah.
there's Godzilla has screen time and it's throughout the movie, but it's very much so like now we cut to our Godzilla Kim. What's he up to, guys? Oh, he
Yep.
fought this little thing because we needed him to fight somebody. And now back to Kong.
Yep.
And I get it. Kong's way more relatable. Like I was rewatching Godzilla versus Kong, and that whole opening number, the Over the Mountain song plays. I was like, he's so me, you know. Like I also wake up and scratch my butt and take a shower and say hi to my little girl. But my little girl's a dog. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. It's the monster fights are super dope, and I think one day there's going to be an awesome YouTube compilation from this movie where you just have all the monster fights, and then that's all you really need to see. Nothing else is good. Oh, the villain, the Scar King, and then I had the anti Godzilla, whatever it is. I had that monster spoiled for me because in the trailer they don't show him. But I went to a toy store, not really. I was at like Target and in the toy section,
Hmm.
and I saw the toy of it, and I was like, "Oh, that's gonna be in the movie. Cool."
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's dope. Like this, the shot of all them jumping at each other at the same time, super cool.
Yeah, Adam Wingard, he does some cool stuff sometimes. It's not the best all the time, but I think this is, like I said, I liked it more than Godzilla versus Kong for sure. It's probably still not my favorite of his movies. Like, did he do Your Next?
Yeah, Adam Wingard. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
I'm pretty
Your
sure.
Next is still my favorite of his by a long shot, but
Oh, really? Over the guest?
Guest is right next to it, but I think Your Next is just a little bit just caught me off guard more, I think, especially with the subversion of killers and whatnot. But yeah, I would put this like middle of his movies, I would say. Definitely
It's
not
so
as far
funny.
down as Blair Witch because that one is the lowest for me.
Sucks.
I don't think I've still finished. I've tried to watch it twice and I fall asleep every time.
The ending is worth see. It's the only part of that movie that's really worth. I mean, I think there's a couple good bits in that movie, but the ending is where most of the conversation comes from because they do something that kind of breaks like the tenet of what a Blair Witch Project movie is supposed to be, but they have their little like excuses of why, and it's like what they show is cool, but it's also like that's not the point of these movies. But oh, it's not a witch. It's not a witch or whatever. But I digress. It's so funny when you said like you were comparing how much you like this movie to the other ones in the franchise because I can't even fathom ranking them.
Oh no,
Even though
no.
I think some of them have two, like Kong, Skull Island, and King of Monsters. Those are both twos, and I think the rest of them are all threes. I bumped a bunch of them. Like I think I had Godzilla at like a four until -1 came out, and I was like, nah,
Yeah,
three.
the only one that I know for sure that I hate, I'm pretty sure, is Godzilla. What is the one with Matthew
King of the
Broderick in it?
Monsters.
No,
Oh, the
Matthew Broderick
'98
one.
one with
Yeah, that
Roland Emmerich.
yeah, that is the worst one for me. Like, even as a kid, I was like, this movie's terrible. I hate it.
Well, I'm just talking about the MonsterVerse
Oh
movies
yeah, yeah, yeah.
themselves. There's like what five of them, and then I couldn't even. I don't know. My favorite one is probably Godzilla because you're right that it's super stupid of them to kill Bryan Cranston and switch over to
Well,
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
it was also just really weird because like at the same time, it was right around when they were also brother and sister. So it was like trying to see them as a
Yeah,
married couple, it also just throws off in my head right away too. Like whistles are going off like, nope, I don't like this love interest thing. Let's not do that.
yeah. Breaking Bad was ending, so Bryan Cranston was at an all-time high
Yeah,
in
it was just like they used
popularity.
star power for the sake of it, not for anything for the movie.
Mhm. My defense is I'll take boring human characters in Godzilla over annoying human characters in King of Monsters and Godzilla versus Kong and even Godzilla X Kong here. So
It's true.
I my favorite is Godzilla, the first one, sure.
Yeah, I
They're all the
mean,
same.
of these monster ones, probably King of the Monsters just because of like Mothra and all that kind of shit were in that one. Just a lot of fun stuff going on. But
I love a good divorce storyline. We're in
yeah,
Fenway Park too.
I barely remember any of that bullshit.
Yeah.
But another movie, well, let's rapid fire through a few of these ones that don't really matter too much. Arthur the King or whatever. It's a dog movie.
Boo!
I know you hated it more than I did, but it was, yeah, it was not a great movie by any means.
It's
Mark
well
Wahlberg,
received on Rotten Tomatoes.
and that's really weird to me because I feel like of any dog movie, this is like one of the most basic of any I've seen lately. Because like, there's no like Mark Wahlberg really didn't do a whole lot. He was walking through most of it. It felt like he wasn't even really trying. Simu
Mhm.
was probably the best of them, even though he really wasn't doing a whole lot of either other just being Simu Liu for the most part.
Mhm.
And it just felt like, yeah, everyone was just walking through it. And yeah, it was a dog movie. And the dog was by far the best member of the cast and was cute. But yeah, nothing about the story. Like, there was a moment where like they kind of fake you out, but I was like right away, I was like, no, they're not gonna fucking do that. And of course they didn't do that. Sorry, spoiler, the dog doesn't die.
Oh
It's
my
a
god,
don't
dude!
watch this fucking movie.
The
I gave
crazy
it
thing about
3.
that is I go to the press screening and the lady running the press screening goes, "Oh, by the way, spoiler alert, the dog does not die." And I was like, I'm
That
about to
ruins,
watch
yeah.
this movie."
Yeah, that's the whole point. It's like you bring up one of the most dramatic moments where they kind of hype it up like they might do a Marley and Me, but they don't commit to that bit.
Hmm. Speaking of bits, I was pissed after the movie, and like so much so that I felt bad for Lauren, like because I was like angry leaving that theater. But I came up with an idea for a feature that I want to make, and it's super easy to make. That's why I want to do it. I literally want to get a camera and film my dog for 90 minutes straight. Like I just want to like walk around and I'll be like, narrating the whole time. Like you'll hear my voice being like just talking about how I feel about dog movies and just, taking my dog on a walk and feeding it and just narrating however. But I want the camera to be pointed at the dog for, at least 90% of the time. And it's a troll movie. It's like a movie, like I'm making a point. Like I'm not trying to make a good movie. I don't want an ounce of like good filmmaking in the movie whatsoever. I really just want it to be 90 straight minutes of the dog. And my point is someone will like the movie.
Oh yeah.
Like, even though I'm like talking about it and like actively shitting on dog movies and talking about why I'm making this movie, someone will like the movie because dog cute, dog make noise, dog funny, dog so cuddly. And like, it just feels so like I was talking about action movies. Oh, it's so easy to get a well received one. Same thing with dog movies. Just cut to the dog, have them go, "Meow," and then they'll be like, "Oh,
Put
yes."
dog in sad situation. Make situation good again. That's how you make a
Yeah.
good dog movie.
Yeah. So
Make you feel emotions and but ultimately make you happy at the end, and that's success.
If I ever do make this movie, it'll be called the Dog Movie. And I think I'll just film it on my iPhone. Like I was thinking about buying a GoPro, but I think I'll just like if my iPhone can record for 90 minutes straight, just just film my dog. And it's a shit post, but um, it's a shit post. I can get away with it.
Speaking of another movie that might even be considered a troll movie in itself, just because how weird and off-putting it might
Yes.
be. I almost forgot about it, but I went and saw this movie on 420, the day you really should have seen it, and
Yeah.
that is Sasquatch Sunset. Now, if I went into this movie, I went into it pretty baked, but if I would have went into it with some mushrooms, I feel like that would have been the perfect experience ever because this movie does not have any dialogue. While it's shot beautifully, it is one of the strangest movies that you'll probably ever see if you plan to watch it. Definitely of the year by far so far, just because not a whole lot happens in it, but at the same time, so much happens in it. It's a gross out comedy while also being a bit like dramatic in a way because you like it made me feel I don't know about yourself, but when certain Sasquatches get put in these sadder situations, I honestly felt like I was like not attracted, attached to these characters in like in
Oh, I
ways
was
where I was like,
attracted to these characters.
yeah, they were attracting a lot of different things. But yeah, I mean, there's such subtle comedy in here too that like even at the moments when they're like they get out to like civilization and they look down and they start screaming when they look down the fucking road and they look down the other way.
Mhm.
Just simple stuff like that where there's no dialogue, but the way they're interacting with each other and just the way they're really interacting with each other is just some of the funniest shit. And it's
Mhm.
very bizarre, but also, like I said, the cinematography did not have to be as crispy and as like beautiful in the woods as it was, but it just shows to the true artistry behind such a ridiculous piece of art.
Yeah, my experience with the film, I was very excited going into it. Like I knew this was one I had to see in theaters. I didn't know anything about it besides Jesse Eisenberg played a Sasquatch.
Yep.
But the first 30 minutes it was just me and one other like old guy. I don't know him. He leaves 30 minutes in, and that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, I want to leave. Like
Yep.
I'm upset. This is bad. This is awful. It's just shitting and pissing and fucking and gross shit. And I went in sober, very sober, by the way. I remember that I don't think any of it's funny. Like I don't think anything in the movie is funny. I think it's funny that this movie got made and is
Yeah.
being like released like wide. Like that's funny, but I didn't find myself finding the contents of the movie itself funny. And then the second 30 minutes of the movie, the second act, I'm almost entirely zoned out. Like I'm just like I'm gonna power through this movie. I'm not really connecting with it whatsoever. The whole log in the water with the foot, none of that made any sense to me. I don't know why that was a problem. And then we get to the third act, and I start picking up on the themes of the movie and what it's going for. And then it was that last 5 minutes of the movie, specifically the last shot of the movie, just a total like gut punch. Like I felt I had goosebumps. I got emotional. I was floored by how, I hate to say, poignant that this movie was, but that image is my favorite moment in the theater outside of every moment of Dune 2 and most of Challengers. I really loved the ending, but I did not enjoy watching this. I would not recommend it to anybody, except I would love to see it with my parents.
I was about to say the only reason I would recommend this movie is purely for the experience because there are very few movies out there that feel like not a movie, but just like you experience that. Let's Skin a Marink being one of those as well. We talked about a little bit earlier. It's just one of those movies that you probably won't watch very often. But when you show it to someone, it's just one of the weird. It's just like, hey, want to see something so fucking weird that you've never seen before? That's the kind of thing
Yeah.
that you're gonna pull this movie out and be like, watch this, and just to kind of gauge their a take on it, as well as just like having a conversation about this movie, especially trying to like dig deeper into some of the meanings that I feel like could be present while and I feel like that's what this kind of movie is. Like at its surface, it is a gross out, dumb comedy. But the more you dig deeper into like what they're trying to say, whether it's even just about nature or just like nature versus nurture or just like any type of thing, whether it's
Deforestation.
deforestation, anything like that. There's just so much in here that you could probably pull from. But if you don't want to have that conversation, it can just be a stupid comedy. And it works on multiple levels like that. And that's what I kind of find interesting about it. It's still a three
Mm.
and a half out of five for me. I'm not saying it's like one of the best movies ever made, but I think it's worth experiencing.
I agree with that. Like, same thing with Civil War. Like, it's really hard for me to see myself recommending it to anybody, but cinephiles, I think this is a must see. I agree.
Yeah.
One I actually want to bring up to you real quick. This is a very small movie. I don't know anyone else who's seen it, but it's a 2024 film. It's on Amazon Prime for free. It is called Musica. It stars, I think his name is Rudy Mansculo or something like that. You may
Yeah.
recognize him from Vines back in the day, like
Yep.
Mi Madre. She cooks, she
Hmm.
cleans. He did a lot of like puppet type stuff, which he does that in the movie. It's very clearly like this is me kind of a thing. Like, how like what's his face? Judd Apatow will make those like King of Staten Island and Knocked
Yeah.
Up and train wreck stuff. It's like, oh, it's a movie about a comedian's life, but it's like played up or whatever, and there's a whatever. But I really appreciated how like much effort I feel like for the dumb Viner guy who was friends with Lele Pons and shit. Like he made a movie that felt really genuine and felt like it had to say a lot about his life and his experiences. His mom plays his mom in the movie. There's the girl from Do Revenge. I don't know her name, but she's a beautiful
Oh,
woman.
I know what you're talking about.
Um,
Yeah, she was in Riverdale too, I think.
yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, it's one like like he keeps hearing music. Like he has this thing where like you'll hear like a ticking, and he'll be like like almost like he's sampling things. Like all these sounds, he'll like sample them all in his head, and he'll like make some kind of like rhythm out of it. And like that kind of gets away of his like job and his relationships and his family, and it's just his like journey to like rise to be an artist. And a lot of it's about the relationship with the girl, but I thought it was very genuine and earnest. So and I was just impressed that the Divine guy would make like a good movie.
That's exactly my whole time sitting here. I'm like, hyping up a Vine movie is pretty crazy, but I'll
Well,
give it.
it's not about Vine at
Oh
all.
yeah,
It's just
I
is
know,
from Vine, you
I know,
know.
and that's immediately what I saw. Like I kept seeing the picture or the poster on Letterboxd, people writing stuff about it, but I didn't. I still don't know other than what you just told me. I don't know anything about it really, other than I think I saw it scrolling through Amazon the other day too. So I guess I'll have to
Mm.
check it out, and I will get back to you on that one. But the only other movie that I can think of that we haven't talked about yet that we both watched is one that I don't think either of us will recommend. Speaking back on Godzilla King of the Monsters about some of that bad acting, it transitions
Oh.
over into this movie and it's called Damsel on Netflix and it's a piece of shit. Don't watch it. The dragon in it is kind of cool. It's voiced by a
Yeah.
lady, I want to say. So that's kind of interesting. I watched it in the truck going up to the UP on a morning where I literally had about 3 hours of sleep and it didn't help other than
Mhm.
put me back to sleep.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Because I saw the title for this movie and I'm like, oh, fantasy movie set in old times, like kingdoms and shit. And there's a dragon, there's a damsel in distress, and oh, I bet some knight, some big, strong, handsome, straight white man is gonna come in and save the day for this poor little lady. But the movie right out the gate says, oh, I bet you think that it's that kind of a movie, huh? Where the damsel in distress gets saved. Well, this is not that kind of movie. Bitch, I knew from the poster. Okay?
The
Like
title.
it's so like it's not for us. You know what I mean? Like let me get that out of the way.
Yeah,
Like it's for 13-year-old girls who are like, girl power, boys are icky.
that is exactly it. Like once my niece becomes like around like 10 or 12, I will pop this movie on for her and I bet even right now with being the age of 6, she'd probably like this movie quite a bit. Just because it's exactly what it is. It's hell yeah, girls are awesome and they can fight dragons and survive and blah blah blah, unlike these stupid men who don't know shit. Like it's definitely one of those movies, but it's not even that great at doing that just because you're expecting Millie Bobby Brown, which God forgive her, she's good in Stranger Things, but she does not at the level to carry a 90-minute movie, especially when
Mm-hmm.
she's the one being on screen mostly by herself for 90% of it. It
Mm-hmm.
just felt like it was dragging on, and it felt longer than 90 minutes the more I keep thinking about it. Was it closer to 2 hours? Because it felt like it was never going to end at some points.
I forgot the movie existed. So I'll go 100 minutes is what I'll guess.
It's a safe bet. It's not anything worth checking out. It's on Netflix, but there are plenty of other things on Netflix, even Stranger Things, that are better use of your time. There's better
105.
dragon movies out there. It literally doesn't have any like redeeming qualities that I would say. Like even like it has Angela Bassett in it, who I am a huge fan of, love her to death. She's wasted in this movie as like her
Mm-hmm.
stepmom, who literally is just there to kind of a step in and be like, maybe we should not send her, blah blah blah. Maybe it's a bad idea, and the dad's just like, no, we have to because money, and it's just like whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that movie stinks. Speaking of Netflix crap, I'm halfway through The Scar Giver, Rebel Moon Part 2.
I've never watched
Uh,
the first one yet. Yeah,
I saw the first one in a theater. I'm one of the few souls on planet Earth who will be able to have said that when it's all said and done. I'm one of the few souls in this planet who will be able to say that they saw Rebel Moon, A Child of Fire, which, if you asked me before I turned on the Scargiver, if I remember, well, I saw this movie in December. If you asked me if I remember the fucking title, God, no, these movies stink. But poor Zack Snyder, I can go off about it a bit, but yeah, if you, Netflix, it's there.
I am.
Um,
I'm probably one of the least Zack Snyder guys out there. Just about like I like Dawn of the Dead, his remake of that, and that's where it ends for me for the most part with his movies almost.
mhm. I'll also recommend the First Omen to you, just because I hated it. I was upset. I also went into it in a bad mood, and like I thought I wasn't gonna like it, but I was so bored. And I've never seen an Omen movie, but I was like, I've seen this movie a million times. This like Exorcist type.
Yeah,
It felt like Immaculate, like I just saw Immaculate. And there's some pretty brutal, like R-rated, like horror, gory sequences that stand out a lot. And people love this fucking movie, dude. So go watch it. You're gonna love it. I know you will. And then I'm gonna feel even more alone on this tiny little blue and green planet we
yeah.
live on. But everyone
Abigail,
loves it.
Abigail, and The Last Exorcist are definitely at my top of my list right now because I'm
The
behind
first
on
Omen.
horror. Or for First Omen, yeah.
That just shows how like
I still haven't
generic it
seen.
is. It's
You know
the
what's
same
funny though?
movie.
One of the movies you hyped up last year, I just remembered because it's on Prime now. Exorcist Believer. Still haven't seen that either. But
I
I
will defend that
actually,
movie to this day. I brought it up this week to my girlfriend. I was like, "Yeah, you still need to see it. Not with me, but you still need to see this."
not with me. Oh yeah,
But
I'm gonna try to catch that one soon. But yeah, you got anything else you want to throw on here?
I'm really quickly. You said you watched fucking Zola?
I did. I went on your Voodoo and just randomly picked one, and that was the one I picked for some fucking reason.
Hey, you lived in Florida for a bit. When they went to Publix, you were like, "Hell
Oh
yeah!"
yeah, I was like, this is.
Drove by
I think my review is like, this is the most Florida movie I've ever seen, and
it.
yeah, it's like I did not really care for Spring Breakers that much, but it's in a
Oh,
similar tone. It's very much in a similar tone, but I think this
yep.
one was a bit better, while still not being that great of a movie though. Like
I
I
love Spring
don't.
Breakers, so you're talking to the wrong guy, man.
Yeah.
This is my type of Florida trip. I was born in this. You mean I adopted Florida?
So you're a big Zola guy? Because I mean, I didn't
I
hate
have it
it
on
by any means.
Blu-ray. You
Yeah, I
know.
didn't hate it by any means, but it's just not something that really even sticks in my mind right now after watching it last week.
I'll never forget when he was like, "If you don't do that, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna jump off this thing and kill myself." And then nobody cared.
Yeah.
He was so funny, but
Him and Coleman Domingo, I will say, are both fantastic.
oh yeah, Coleman Domingo's is great in it as well. I'll just rattle off some very. I'll be very quick. Jexy sucked. Fuck that movie. Oh, phones are bad. Don't be obsessed with your phone. I get it.
I didn't hate it because I
Um,
like Adam Devine. That's the only thing I will say. I saw it in theaters. That's why it's on my Voodoo because I got a free code from Regal.
I like Adam Devine. But the movie was SLC Punk, Salt Lake City Punk, really good. I love Matthew Lillard.
Oh
I
yeah,
thought it was also really poignant towards the end. So I had a good time with that. Barton Fink, I thought was really good. I almost give it a 5. I think if I
yeah.
rewatch it and I love it again, then I'll give it a 5. But yeah, really good. Probably one of the better things I've watched on your Voodoo. I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry. Wow, that was amazing. It was a marvel of a movie. Terrible, awful, one
Dude,
star. Like, and they're
I
lucky I gave it 1 star.
when I saw that movie in 2006, I thought it was like one of the funniest movies ever because I was 10 years old. And
Yeah,
watching it
well,
now, it is not that.
it has not aged well. I think there's some very interesting, like, in-depth conversations that can be had because that they meant it.
Oh
They
yeah.
were being like they thought, oh, we're an ally, we're making a movie for the community, and like
Dude,
everything. It's
they
like,
brought in Clay Aiken, who was arguably like one of the biggest gay icons at the time, because after he won like American Idol or runner
mm,
up in American Idol actually, but they were trying everything. Like they really thought that this was like, yeah, we're gonna do something for
mm.
the gays here, but a lot of it is just very mean spirited.
Yeah, Kevin James wearing Met stuff the whole time, and I'm like, stop it. And then the 1 star is because I was once 12 years old, and that one scene with Jessica Biel I've seen dozens and dozens of times. She's beautiful. So
Yeah.
moving on, The Guest, very good. Dan Stevens is the man. Very. My buddy said it was like an R-rated The Pacifier, and I was like, oh yeah, it actually kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, a
is.
little bit, yeah.
But I really liked it. I'm going to skip over this. This one will be the last one. But Power Rangers sucked ass. Fucking hated that movie. It's the
I get it.
ugliest. Who's Saban? Saban's Power Ranger. Who the fuck is Saban?
Well,
And he's like,
they have been the people behind it for forever, but yeah, they don't have very big presence in filmmaking.
yeah, sure, fuck him. And then it's ugly. Who watched Project Almanac and was like but with Power Rangers? Bad idea. Fucking hated that. Half Baked. That one's for the community. No, I'm kidding. It's for the stoner community. I
Oh
watched it
yeah.
on 420. Very funny. Some iconic bits. I love that. If you're cool. fuck
Yeah.
you, I'm out. That's awesome. And then there was stuff like I didn't even notice, like the one where he's like, I'm not gonna do what everyone thinks I'm gonna do and freak out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, whatever. And then I did a walk to remember. I didn't realize it was a Nick Sparks movie until like a little bit into it, and I was like, oh, it's like every Nick Sparks movie. Don't care for it. Red Eye, very good, very tight
Hell
little
yeah.
thriller. Really like that. American Ultra, I didn't care for. I was just like, this is a little too crazy and weird, and very good actors, but not for me. And then from your voodoo, oh yeah, what started this trend? I hate to say it, was Zach and Miri make a porno, which
I like that movie. I don't care.
I mean, I just think if I was making a sex comedy where the main couple is going to be in a porno and have sex, have the balls to do nudity. Like there's a bunch of nudity in the movie, but like none from Seth Rogen or Elizabeth Banks. Say we see them in underwear and stuff, but it's like, and I get it, they're celebrities, but like, if you're gonna make a movie like this, like have some balls. And then like it also felt like a movie Kevin Smith wrote for himself, but he didn't want to act in it, so he got Seth Rogen. And while they're both like, bigger guys who are kind of geeky, but they're like cool stoner guys, like I get it, but like I think that Kevin James does that like angry, bitter thing a little bit better than Seth Rogen does.
Yeah.
Um,
I will
so
say
I
my
just
favorite moments in that movie have nothing to do with either Seth Rogen or Elizabeth Banks.
oh, is it
Like
Craig Robinson?
like Craig Robinson when he's like doing the whole coffee thing and the guy's like, can I get some coffee black? And he's like, can't you see I'm talking white? And like that kind of stuff just cracks me up.
And then just to finish my thing, I want to thank you again. I thanked you before the show, but on the show, I would love to thank you. I haven't given a 5-star first time watch to a movie since Dune Part Two, and I was like shocked by how up my alley that Team America World Police is. I was gobsmacked. I was smitten. I have listened to the song "I'm So Lonely" so many times. I have been so like drawn to rewatching this movie
Yeah.
in the past week. Like I just watched it a week ago, and I'm absolutely in love. My absolute favorite moment in the movie is in "I'm So Lonely" when he sings, "It may sound silly, but not really,"
Yeah.
and we quote
Dude,
that all the time.
if I would have known you hadn't seen that until this last week, I would have recommended it a long time ago. Because yeah, it is right up your alley. Whether it's the musical numbers,
Yeah,
the
they're just the
weird,
music. Yeah,
awkward humor, and everything. Like honestly, it's similar humor to like Dick's the musical in a lot of ways. Just like absurd,
yep,
just like
exactly. Yeah,
just funny shit. And yeah, this movie I've seen it so many times because just like it came out at a perfect time. I was 2003. I want to say is the year it came out.
I can check real quick.
Something like that because I was very young still.
2004.
So yeah, 2004, I would have been 8. Yeah, it was a perfect time for me to because my parents were like, "Oh, it's a puppet movie, so it'd be whatever," and they didn't really like hide things from me that often. I could pretty much watch whatever I wanted to watch. But I saw that fairly when it came out when it was fairly new still, and yeah, it was a big component of my childhood and just growing up, just hearing all of that goofy shit and like the Matt Damon thing
Matt
quoted
Damon. Like
constantly
I knew
quoted.
about it, but like it got funnier every time they did it too.
Yeah. And the fact that Matt
Um,
Damon's leaned into the joke a few times too is just even better.
yeah, I knew they had me from the Rent number. Everyone has AIDS, AIDS,
Yeah.
AIDS, AIDS, AIDS. Because I've seen Rent, so that like hit me personally. And I just love again, like kind of like Sasquatch Sunset. I hate how poignant this movie is. Like it has a lot to say about like, well, it's called Team America World Police. You can kind of understand what it's trying to
Hmm.
say about the military at that point, but also what it has to say about like the Hollywood elite and how they push their agenda around. And like, I just thought that like this movie had a lot to say, and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
that's crazy, that's awesome. So I was really happy
Matt
with it.
Stone and Trey Parker pulled no punches with their writing and everything with this one. They were like, we're gonna go balls to the wall. And that's kind of they said that in interviews too, like they wanted to go as hard as they could because they knew that they were never gonna work with puppets again. Because it's the one thing they said. They're like, I will never like during the production, I guess they said never ever marionettes ever again. They're
And
like,
that
it's
was an
too
awesome
hard.
aspect of the movie too. Like, first of
Oh
all, it
yeah.
was super like different, like from a visual standpoint, but also like there was gags with that. Like, I love how you could see the wires, and
Hmm.
like I specifically said to people, I love that when there's a sex scene, a very vivid sex scene in the movie, and they're like perfectly like executing the sex, like they're like look like they're fucking, and like the movements are so perfect, and the positions they're able to accomplish, like it's so impressive. And then when they're walking, and they just kind of
Mm,
like yeah, like move
yeah.
forward like that. It's so hilarious. This is one of my. I almost gave it a 4, almost, and I was like, you know what? No, I love. They were playing all the songs throughout the credits, and I was like, I love these. I love
Hmm.
this movie. It's one of my favorites comedies now. Of a decade of great comedies, the 2000s. Like this stands shoulder to shoulder with the best of them. Anything Will Ferrell, Seth Rogen,
Yeah.
Borat, Mean Girls, all that stuff.
Yeah. It's so good. I'm so happy you finally seen it because yeah, it's just that great of a comedy.
Mhm. But yeah, so you watched Zola. What else did you watch in my Voodoo?
Recently, not that I can,
I
nothing that I can
added
think
a
of.
couple things on 420. It was like 8 stoner comedies for $4.20. So I jumped
Yeah.
on that. There was a 2000s collection of 10 movies that I got for like $13.
Yeah,
It's got The Departed. I'm watching The Departed again.
I need to start working on my watch list on your Voodoo because it's getting to be like 70 now, so I need to start dwindling those down. So, you have any
Mhm.
recommendations on what I should watch in the next near future?
Oh, yes. Real quick, because I imagine we're signing out here in a sec. So if you want to start that while I look it up.
Yeah, so this is it for today, everybody. I hope you liked what we talked about. And if you have any movies that you're really itching for us to check out, write them in the comments down there. Write anything down there that you'd like. We'd love to have some conversations with you. And on my channel, I have not made a video. I made Kung Fu Panda 4 review recently, and I plan to try to make more here soon, but just haven't had the time with work and everything. If I do make one, I might make one still about Late Night with the Devil, just because I want to talk about that movie a little bit more and get more recommendations out there to more people over to Shutter, maybe. But yeah, that's all I can think about right now. You got any cool things on the horizon for your channel, anyway?
I'm doing pretty good with stuff. Obviously, with bigger blockbusters coming out, I should be doing more. I think I'm going to record. I do the Fall Guy tomorrow, so I'm going to make a video about that. And while I'm doing that, I'll make my video for Abigail. And I think there's another thing that I'm still not watching Ministry of Gentlemanly Bullshit. I don't like Guy Ritchie.
I do, but I had a ticket for it and didn't have. I think it was like one day that I was like, I can go if I find the time, but I just never went.
Yeah, and Sasquatch Sunset, I might do a video about that as well. But I've got actually my Challengers video is one of my highest since my Dune one. I think it's like close to 400. So feeling very confident about that.
Hell yeah.
I'm scrolling through my Voodoo, the watch list here. I'm shocked you haven't seen Labyrinth.
I
Bad News
have, but I haven't
Bears.
watched the whole thing, so that's why I put it in there.
Oh, and that's one I feel like. I mean, it's a little dark, but you can watch with your niece,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. Bad News Bears, if you're into your sports movie kick with Challengers, that's a personal. I'm a big baseball guy. But if
I've
I had to
seen
like,
I've seen the remake of Bad News Bears, but never any of those originals.
it doesn't capture the exact same magic. I understand the filmmaker Richard Linklater is great, Billy Bobby Thornton, whatever the fuck,
Yeah.
he's great casting and whatnot. But that movie belongs to what is it, the 70s or the 60s? Like,
Yeah.
leave it there, kind of a thing. But if I had to pick like one thing to recommend, you've not seen The Iron Giant?
I not I have, but it was one of those movies that I have to rewatch because little story time here. My brother
Mm-hmm.
was obsessed with the Iron Giant as a kid to the point where like I hated it just because of that. Like he would only
Mm-hmm.
watch the Iron Giant and Land Before Time, two of the saddest kids movies there are. To the point where
Yeah.
like I started to not like them at all just because of that reason. Oh yeah, and Fox and the Hound too.
Oh,
Those
I just
three.
rewatched that.
Dude,
Oh.
the trifecta, he loved all three of those. And I was like, as a kid, I was like, I don't understand why you want to be sad all the time, but I don't want to be.
Yeah, but I personally love Muppet Treasure Island a lot. But if I do have to, and Truman Show, and When Harry Met Sally, and Safety Not Guaranteed. But if I do have to pick one thing, I'm cheating again because I'm gonna say like 4 movies here. Everything that M Night's ever done, it seems to be on this list. Like I'm shocked you have Signs and Unbreakable,
Oh
especially
no,
here.
Signs and Unbreakable I've seen. I just had them in there because I want to watch them again.
Oh, okay.
I
Well, even
haven't seen
then,
Lady in the Water
still.
though. That's
They
one of the
built
only
they
ones I
built an
haven't seen.
entire little apartment complex for the movie. And, just like how everyone loves an Interstellar, they actually planted corn in all those fields. Well, we built an apartment complex, okay. And then also you want to talk about how good Paul Giamatti is in The Holdovers, well, he's even better in Lady in the Water. Not to mention that's M. Night's best role as Lady in the Water. He's awesome. He's my most watched actor of the year. I've been going through all my old M. Night rewatches. And then The Village and The Happening, you haven't seen those either?
Oh no, I just added all those into watching them again. It's been a long time since I've watched The Village, but Happening, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a couple times. But Village is one that I've actually was a huge fan of even as a kid. I just thought it
Mhm.
was really brilliant.
Yeah, I love the Village. Punch Drunk Love is very good, and then what's it called? A Ghost Story. A Ghost Story. Final Answer. Ghost Story. You've seen that? You not seen
I
that?
I watched it. Remember, we watched it together once, but I fell asleep very early on watching it,
Oh,
so I need
then
to
no, I
finish
take
it.
it back. Yeah, I remember exactly what you're talking about.
We were. It was like 4 a.m.
Um,
though. That's why I fell asleep.
when Harry Met Sally and Truman Show are both of the either of those like you've never seen them at all.
um, Clips like Harry Met Sally, the diner clip and everything. But other than that, no.
Okay, when Harry Met Sally is the greatest rom com of all time.
Yeah, it's Billy Crystal, right?
Yeah, you could put it
Yeah,
on the board.
I love Billy
Uh,
Crystal.
I love that movie to death. But yeah, my number one because the only movie like the Truman Show is in my top five, at least top
Yeah.
10 favorite movies of all time. I know, I say everything's like my favorite of all time, but
No, I know Truman
genuinely,
Show is one of your favorites though.
yeah, it's so perfect, and the performance is great. The concept's awesome. We still use that reference to this day, like like a Truman Show situation.
Yeah.
And Ed Harris is really great in it. I couldn't. Oh, Paul Giamatti as well is in the movie too. He plays
Did
a
not
little
know that.
side role. But yeah, one of the most poignant movies on this list. I couldn't recommend it. I love it so much. But yeah, check out Hard Reviews. Like I said, Challengers. I did one recently. Should be seeing a bunch of the summer movie stuff early, so be checking out Hard Review.
Yeah. Hard, hard,
Uh,
hard.
but yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it was long, but we had a lot of stuff to catch up. That's on me.
No, no,
got
no.
teeth stuff going on and whatnot. So I appreciate your patience with me. But thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and keep loving movies, guys.
Love you guys. Bye.